A racist lawyer calls a black witness uneducated. He laughs at her, mocks her, and dismisses her in front of an entire courtroom. But that lawyer, a man who built his kingdom on arrogance and prejudice, just made the biggest mistake of his entire life. This is the story of how one man's bigotry led to his complete and total destruction. The courtroom is a cathedral built to the god of Marcus Thorne. Its vaulted ceilings echo not with prayer, but with the sound of his own booming voice. The dark wood of the paneling is polished to a high gleam, reflecting his tailored suit like a dark mirror. He stands in the center of it all, not as a participant in justice, but as its high priest. Marcus Thorne is a man carved from granite and prejudice. His hair is a perfect silver helmet, his jaw is a weapon, and his eyes are chips of ice that assess the world in terms of value and weakness. Today, he sees only weakness. At the defendant's table sits David Carter, a boy of 19 who looks 12. He drowns in a borrowed suit, his shoulders slumped in a posture of permanent apology. He is accused of a crime that carries the weight of a lifetime, a sophisticated robbery that his terrified eyes and trembling hands could never have conceived, let alone executed. Beside him, his public defender, Ben Jacobs, shuffles papers with the frantic energy of a man trying to plug a dam with his fingertips. Hope has already fled his face. And on the witness stand, there is Imani Williams. To Marcus Thorne, she is nothing. A prop. A minor inconvenience on the path to his inevitable victory. She wears a simple floral dress, the kind one might wear to a church picnic. Her hair is pulled back neatly, and her hands are folded in her lap. She looks like a kindergarten teacher, or perhaps a librarian. She looks soft. She looks, to Marcus Thorne, exquisitely breakable. Miss Williams, he begins, and the name drips from his tongue, thick with condescension. Let's try this again, shall we? For the benefit of the jury, who I'm sure are just as confused as I am. He paces before the witness stand, a predator circling its prey. The sound of his Italian leather shoes on the marble floor is the only sound in the room. It is a sound of ownership. You claim you were walking your dog at 11 o'clock at night. Is that correct? Imani's voice is quiet, but clear. Yes, that is correct. 11 o'clock. At night, he repeats the words as if they are an absurdity, a concept too ridiculous to entertain. In the Northwood district. A woman of your demographic. Walking alone at that hour. Seems a bit unlikely, does it not? Ben Jacobs rises halfway from his seat. Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is being argumentative and, frankly, offensive. Judge Albright, a man whose spine was surgically removed and replaced with a political IOU to Thorne's firm years ago, waves a dismissive hand. Overruled. Mr. Thorne, proceed. But do try to get to a point. Thorne smiles, a flash of white teeth in a predator's grin. The judge's words are not a reprimand, they are a green light. The point, Your Honor, is credibility. Miss Williams, tell me, what kind of dog is it? Imani blinks. He's a beagle mix. His name is Gus. Gus. Thorne says the name as if it tastes foul. And this Gus, he needed to be walked at precisely the moment a complex, high-stakes robbery was taking place across the street. A robbery my client, a respected businessman, has been wrongly accused of. I don't know anything about a robbery, Imani says, her voice steady. I know I saw a man, who was not Mr. Carter, running from the building and getting into a silver sedan. I saw his face clearly under the streetlight. You saw his face, Thorne laughs, a short, ugly bark. The lighting on that street is notoriously poor. The city has received dozens of complaints. But you, with your eagle eyes, you saw everything perfectly. How convenient. He leans in close, invading her space, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that is still loud enough for the entire jury to hear. Let's be honest, shall we? You know the defendant, don't you? David Carter. He's from your neighborhood. Your friends. Maybe more than friends. I have never met Mr. Carter before today, Imani says. The words are clipped, precise. A flicker of something hard passes through her eyes, but it is gone so quickly Thorne doesn't even notice. He is too busy playing to his audience. So you're just a concerned citizen. A good Samaritan. You saw this young man's face on the news and your heart went out to him. You thought, that poor boy, he needs someone to help him, so you invented a story. A silver sedan. A mysterious other man. A little fairy tale to set him free. Objection. Ben Jacobs is on his feet now, his voice cracking with indignation. Counsel is badgering the witness and inventing a narrative with no basis in fact. Sit down, Mr. Jacobs, Judge Albright sighs, polishing his spectacles. Mr. Thorne is exploring the witness's motivations. It's called cross-examination. You may learn something. The courtroom titters with sycophantic laughter. Ben Jacobs sinks back into his chair, defeated. He looks at David, whose face is now buried in his hands. Thorne turns back to Imani, his victory assured. He feels the familiar thrill of the kill. Let's talk about your statement to the police, he says, grabbing a document from his table. You described the car as a late-model silver sedan, can you be more specific? Was it a Toyota? A Honda? A Mercedes? I am not an expert on automobiles, Imani replies. It was silver. It had 4 doors. It drove away very quickly. Not an expert. I see. Thorne taps the document. You also described the men you supposedly saw as being approximately 6 feet tall, approximately. Not very precise, is it? Could he have been 5'11"? 6'1". He was taller than me, Imani says. It was an estimation. An estimation, Thorne throws the word back at her. Everything with you seems to be an estimation. A guess. A feeling. This is a court of law, Miss Williams, not a book club. We deal in facts. Hard, verifiable facts. He takes a step back, folding his arms. He appraises her, from her simple shoes to her unadorned face. He sees a life of mediocrity. A person of no consequence. Tell me, Miss Williams, he says, his voice taking on a tone of mock sympathy. What is it you do for a living? I'm currently between positions, she says calmly. Between positions, Thorne allows a cruel smile to spread across his face. A delicate way of saying unemployed. I understand. The economy is tough. He lets the insult hang in the air, a foul stench. He is painting a picture for the jury. An unreliable witness. An unemployed woman with too much time on her hands, likely with a personal bias, inventing a story to feel important or to help a boy from her community. It is a masterpiece of character assassination, and he is not even close to finished. The air in the courtroom grows heavier, thick with the cloying scent of injustice. Ben Jacobs tries to object again, a feeble protest swallowed by the room's oppressive silence. The judge waves him away before he can even form a complete sentence. Thorne is a conductor, and this is his symphony of despair. He circles Imani again, his movements slow, deliberate. Let's return to the events of that night, he says, his tone shifting from mockery to cold accusation. You said you heard a noise. What kind of noise? It was a loud bang. Like a door being forced open, Imani states. Her composure is unnerving. Thorne had expected tears, or anger, or confusion. This placid stillness infuriates him. It feels like a challenge. A bang. And you, a woman alone in a dangerous neighborhood, you didn't run. You didn't call the police. Instead, you decided to play detective. You peeked around the corner and just happened to see this phantom driver. I was concerned someone might be hurt, she replies. I used my phone to record what I saw. A ripple of interest goes through the jury box. Thorne stops pacing. You recorded it. On your phone. Where is this recording? I provided it to the police. It was entered into evidence. Thorne scoffs, turning to his paralegal, who shakes her head slightly. He turns back, his confidence unshaken. Ah yes, that recording I recall. A blurry, dark video of nothing. A shaky mess that proves absolutely nothing, submitted by the prosecution and rightly dismissed as irrelevant. He is lying. The video was grainy, but it showed a car speeding away. The prosecution, outgunned and underfunded, had failed to press its significance against Thorne's ferocious objections. It shows the car, Imani says, her voice unwavering. It shows a smudge of light, Miss Williams. Thorne's voice booms, rattling the spectators. A smudge of light that you have woven into a grand conspiracy to exonerate a common thief. He points a perfectly manicured finger at David Carter. Look at him. He was found with stolen property. His fingerprints are at the scene. The evidence against him is overwhelming. And the state's entire case rests on what? The blurry video and the estimations of an unemployed woman looking for her 15 minutes of fame. He has crossed a line from aggressive questioning into outright abuse. The room feels it. The air crackles. Ben Jacobs is on his feet, his face flushed with a rare display of genuine anger. Your Honor, this is unacceptable. Counsel is testifying. He is insulting my client and this witness. I demand that he be sanctioned. Judge Albright looks irritated, not at Thorne, but at Jacobs for disrupting the flow of the proceeding. Mr. Thorne, you will refrain from making personal attacks on the witness. The words are empty, a hollow formality. There is no force behind them. Thorne gives a slight, almost imperceptible bow. My apologies, Your Honor. My passion for the truth occasionally gets the better of me. He turns back to Imani, his eyes glittering with malice. The token reprimand has only emboldened him. He decides it is time to deliver the killing blow. He will not just discredit her testimony. He will shatter her dignity. He will make her an object of pity and ridicule so that no one in the jury box could possibly believe a single word she says. Miss Williams, he says, his voice now soft and cloying, like poisoned honey. I'm trying to understand your perspective. I truly am. But some of these details, the legal concepts, they can be quite confusing for a layperson. He picks up a thick legal document from his table, a property deed related to the building that was robbed. For instance, the basis of this case involves a breach of a commercial lease agreement, which precipitated the events of that night. It's complex stuff. Full of clauses and subclauses. He holds it up as if she couldn't possibly comprehend its contents. Given your background and your current employment situation, it's perfectly understandable that complex concepts like contractual obligation or evidentiary standards might be a little difficult to grasp. He is talking to her as one would talk to a child. A slow, dim-witted child. Perhaps we should use smaller words. The cruelty is breathtaking. It is naked and ugly and it fills every corner of the room. David Carter looks up, his eyes wide with disbelief at the viciousness of the attack on his behalf. Ben Jacobs is speechless, his mouth opening and closing with no sound coming out. Imani Williams just watches him. Her face is a mask of neutrality, but her eyes are a different story. They are dark, deep, and for the first time, they hold a cold, burning fire. Thorne, blinded by his own arrogance, does not see it. He sees only a black woman in a cheap dress, and he is about to put her in her place. Tell me, dear, he says, leaning on the witness stand, his voice a sickening parody of kindness. Just so we're all clear on the level of expertise we're dealing with here. He pauses for dramatic effect, letting his gaze sweep across the rapt faces of the jury. Did you even finish high school? The question hangs in the air. It is the peak. The summit of his cruelty. The moment of maximum humiliation. He smiles, waiting for her to stammer, to cry, to crumble. Imani Williams does not crumble. She does not even blink. A profound silence descends upon the courtroom. It is deeper than the usual hush. It is a vacuum, a void where sound and motion have ceased to exist. Marcus Thorne's smirk is frozen on his face, a grotesque mask of smug superiority. He believes he has won. He believes he has landed the final, decisive blow that will obliterate the witness, her testimony, and the prosecution's entire flimsy case. He is wrong. Imani Williams does not answer his question. Instead, she turns her head slowly, deliberately, and looks directly at Judge Albright. Her voice, when it comes, is not the quiet, demure voice of the woman who was just on the stand. This voice is different. It is calm. It is measured. It is resonant with an authority that is utterly at odds with her simple floral dress. Your Honor, she says, the words cutting through the silence like shards of glass. I believe counsel's last question, coupled with his entire line of inquiry, constitutes a violation of Rule 403 of the Federal Rules of Evidence. Its probative value is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice, confusing the issues, and misleading the jury. The courtroom is stunned into absolute stillness. Ben Jacobs stares, his jaw slack. He recognizes the language. It is the precise, formal invocation of a seasoned trial attorney. Judge Albright, who had been half dozing, sits up straight, his eyes wide with shock. Marcus Thorne's smile falters. A flicker of confusion crosses his face. It is like a computer encountering a line of code it cannot process. Furthermore, Imani continues, her gaze unwavering, counsel's repeated ad hominem attacks and his introduction of prejudicial assumptions about my education and socioeconomic status are clear violations of the ABA Model Rules of Professional Conduct, specifically Rule 34, Fairness to Opposing Party and Counsel, and Rule 84, Misconduct. She is not asking. She is stating. She is not a witness anymore. She is a lecturer in a masterclass on law, and the entire courtroom is her stunned classroom. Thorne finds his voice, but it is a strangled, reedy thing. What is this? Your Honor, what is she talking about? She's just a witness spouting nonsense she probably heard on television. Imani Williams ignores him completely, as if he were a buzzing fly. She reaches down into the simple, unassuming handbag at her feet. Thorne expects a tissue. Perhaps a bottle of water. What emerges is a slim, dark blue leather portfolio. She places it on the railing of the witness stand with a soft, definitive thud. She unzips it. Her movements are economical, precise, and utterly mesmerizing. The first thing she pulls out is a document, embossed and official. She unfolds it and lays it flat on the wooden railing, facing the jury. The words are unmistakable, written in elegant calligraphy. Yale Law School. Juris Doctor. Summa cum laude. Imani Sarah Williams. A collective gasp ripples through the courtroom. The jurors lean forward as one, their eyes wide. Thorne's face, which had been a mask of confident cruelty, begins to collapse. The blood drains from it, leaving a pasty, sickly white. Imani is not finished. She reaches into the portfolio again. She produces a small, laminated card. She places it next to the diploma. New York State Bar Association. Admitted. Then another. District of Columbia Bar. Admitted. And then, the final item. It is a leather wallet containing a badge and an identification card. She flips it open. The golden eagle of the United States Department of Justice gleams under the courtroom lights. She turns her head and for the first time, she looks directly at Marcus Thorne. The gentle, nervous witness is gone. In her place is a woman of formidable power and icy resolve. My name, she says, and her voice now holds the weight of the federal government, is Imani Williams. I am an assistant United States attorney for the Southern District of New York, currently on assignment with the Attorney General's Public Integrity Section. The words hit Marcus Thorne like a physical blow. He stumbles back a step, his hand flying to his chest as if to stop his heart from leaping out. And I find your line of questioning, Mr. Thorne, she continues, her eyes locking onto his, to be not only contemptible and misogynistic, but a stunning display of professional incompetence. Silence. Absolute. Total. The power dynamic in the room has not just shifted. It has been annihilated. A nuclear bomb has been detonated, and the entire landscape of the trial has been vaporized, reformed into something new and terrifying for Marcus Thorne. He is no longer the predator. He is the prey. And the woman in the simple floral dress has just revealed herself to be the apex hunter. Marcus Thorne's world is a spinning vortex of panic. The polished floor seems to tilt beneath his feet. The faces of the jury morph into a gallery of accusing gargoyles. The air, once his to command, is now thin and sharp in his lungs. This is a trick, he sputters, pointing a trembling finger at Imani. A charade. Your Honor, this is a flagrant violation. A mistrial. She's a plant. Judge Albright, for his part, looks like a man who has just seen his own ghost. His face is the color of old parchment. The gavel in his hand seems to weigh 1,000 pounds. He looks from the Yale diploma to the Department of Justice credentials and then to Imani's cold, unyielding eyes. He knows. He knows he has allowed his courtroom, his career, his entire comfortable existence, to walk to the edge of a cliff. Imani Williams does not wait for the judge to rule. She takes control. It is no trick, Mr. Thorne, she says, her voice echoing with chilling authority. I was in this city visiting my mother when I witnessed the events of May 12th. I provided a statement as a private citizen, as is my duty. I chose not to reveal my professional capacity to avoid influencing the proceedings. She pauses, letting her gaze sweep over the stunned courtroom. However, she continues, her voice dropping, becoming more intense, your egregious conduct, your blatant witness intimidation, and the clear and convincing evidence of perjury you have suborned from your client have compelled me to act. She turns to the judge. Your Honor, I am no longer speaking as a witness. I am now addressing the court as an officer of that court and as a representative of the United States Department of Justice. Thorne laughs, a high, hysterical sound that is closer to a scream. You have no standing here. This is a state court. You have no jurisdiction. Don't I? Imani's reply is quiet, but it carries more menace than all of Thorne's previous shouting. Obstruction of justice is a federal crime, Mr. Thorne. So is witness tampering, especially when the witness in question is a federal prosecutor. Suborning perjury in a case involving interstate commerce, which this robbery does, also falls squarely within federal purview. Each legal term is a nail being hammered into his coffin. She knows. She knows everything. This isn't a spontaneous reaction. This is a planned demolition. Your Honor, Imani says, her focus back on the terrified men on the bench. I have in my possession evidence directly pertaining to this case that was willfully ignored by the local police department and suppressed by the defense. Evidence I acquired through proper federal channels in the intervening weeks. This is an outrage. Thorne bellows, his composure completely shattered. He is no longer a sophisticated lawyer, he is a cornered animal, all snarling teeth and panicked eyes. I will not stand here and be ambushed. You will stand there and you will be silent, Imani commands, and the power in her voice is so absolute that Thorne physically flinches and shuts his mouth. She addresses the court clerk. Please project Exhibit 7A onto the main screen. The clerk, wide-eyed and fumbling, complies. An image appears on the large screen behind the judge. It is a map, overlaid with cell phone tower data. This, Imani explains, her voice crisp and clear, is the cell phone location data for your client, Mr. Thorne, on the night of the robbery. As you can see from the timestamps, at the precise moment the crime was committed, his phone was pinging off a tower nearly 7 miles away, at a private poker game. A game he conveniently failed to mention when providing his alibi. A gasp goes through the courtroom. Thorne's client, a smug, heavy-set man named Frank Miller, leaps to his feet. She's lying. That's not true. Then perhaps you can explain Exhibit 7B, Imani says, not missing a beat. The image on the screen changes. It is now a series of text messages. These are messages, recovered from your client's phone, sent to an associate of his 30 minutes after the robbery, Imani narrates. I'll read the relevant one aloud. The package is secure. Cops grabbed the wrong guy. Some kid from the neighborhood. Perfect. Let him take the fall. Frank Miller's face turns ashen. He collapses back into his chair as if his strings have been cut. He looks at Thorne with eyes full of terror and betrayal. Thorne himself is hyperventilating. His perfectly tailored suit is now soaked with sweat. His silver hair is disheveled. He looks pathetic. This is illegal, he croaks. You had no right. Warrantless search. The warrant was signed by a federal magistrate 2 weeks ago, Mr. Thorne, Imani replies coolly. A warrant granted based on a pattern of suspicious financial transactions between your client and several known criminal enterprises. This robbery was just a small part of a much larger investigation. An investigation you have just made yourself the star of. She turns her attention back to the screen. And finally, there is the matter of the witness you produced. The one who claimed to see Mr. Carter at the scene. An image of a man's driver's license appears. This is William Spader. He testified under oath that he was walking his dog and saw David Carter fleeing the scene. But financial records show that the day after he gave his statement to police, Mr. Spader received a wire transfer for $10,000 from a shell corporation. The image changes again. It is a flowchart of company ownership. A series of arrows and boxes leads from the shell corporation to another, and then another, and finally to a name at the very top. Thorne and Associates, LLP. The jury gasps. One juror points a finger at Thorne. "You paid him to lie," she whispers, the words audible in the dead silence. Marcus Thorne is broken. The granite has crumbled to dust. The high priest has been revealed as a fraud in his own temple. He looks around desperately, at the judge, at his client, at the jury. He finds no sympathy. He finds only contempt and disgust. His empire of arrogance, built over a lifetime of bullying and deceit, has been dismantled brick by brick in less than 10 minutes. By a woman he called uneducated. By a woman in a simple floral dress. Just as Thorne opens his mouth to let out one last, desperate, self-incriminating howl of protest, a new sound echoes through the courtroom. It is the sound of the heavy main doors at the back of the room being pushed open with authoritative force. They swing inward, banging against their stoppers, and the sudden noise makes everyone jump. Two figures stand framed in the doorway, silhouetted against the bright light of the hallway. They are a man and a woman, both dressed in immaculate dark suits that scream federal law enforcement. They carry themselves with an unshakable, purposeful calm that immediately commands the attention of the entire room. The woman steps forward. She is tall, with sharp features and hair the color of steel pulled back in a severe bun. Her eyes are like a hawk's, missing nothing. She is Director Catherine Vance of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Public Corruption Unit. A legend. A name that makes even the most powerful men in Washington speak in hushed tones. Beside her, a younger but no less imposing agent scans the room. Director Vance's gaze sweeps past the jury, past the judge, and lands squarely on the defense table. Her voice is not loud, but it cuts through the tension like a surgeon's scalpel. Marcus Thorne. It is not a question. It is a judgment. Thorne spins around, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. He recognizes her. He has seen her face on the news, in magazines. He knows exactly who she is and what her presence in this courtroom means. It is the end. "You are under arrest," Director Vance states, her voice devoid of all emotion. "For conspiracy to obstruct justice, witness tampering, and racketeering." Two uniformed U.S. Marshals, who had entered silently behind her, now stride down the central aisle. Their steps are heavy, measured, inexorable. They are the physical embodiment of the consequences Thorne has spent his entire life believing he was immune to. Thorne begins to babble, his words a nonsensical torrent of panic. "No, you can't. This is a misunderstanding. I am a respected member of the bar. I have rights." The marshals do not respond. They flank him. One of them takes Thorne's arm in a grip of iron. "Put your hands behind your back," the marshal says, his voice a low rumble. The sheer indignity of the command shatters the last of Thorne's composure. "No," he shrieks, the sound high and pathetic. He tries to pull his arm away, a futile, spastic gesture. "You will not lay your hands on me. I am Marcus Thorne." His scream of self-importance hangs in the air for a moment before dying, pathetic and unheard. The marshals are brutally efficient. In one smooth motion, they force his arms behind his back. The sharp, metallic click of handcuffs closing echoes through the Cathedral of Justice. It is a sound of finality. The sound of a door slamming shut on a life of privilege and power. As if on cue, the doors at the back of the courtroom burst open again, this time admitting a flood of reporters and photographers. The blinding strobes of their cameras begin to flash, turning the scene into a series of stark, brutal still lives. Flash. Thorne's face, contorted in a silent scream of disbelief. Flash. The handcuffs glinting on his wrists, tight against the cuffs of his $1,000 shirt. Flash. His client, Frank Miller, sinking low in his chair, trying to hide his face from the cameras that have now turned on him. The marshals begin to lead Thorne away. He is no longer a legal titan. He is just a criminal in a bad suit, a prisoner in his own kingdom. "Imani," he screams, twisting his head to look back at the witness stand. His eyes are wild, pleading. "You did this. You set me up." Imani Williams has risen from the witness stand. She stands tall, her simple dress now looking like a robe of judgment. She watches him being dragged away, his legacy turning to ash with every step. She feels no pity. She feels only a cold, clean sense of order being restored. As he is pulled past the defendant's table, Thorne's desperate gaze falls on David Carter. The young man is weeping, but not from fear. He is weeping with the overwhelming, gut-wrenching relief of a man who has just been pulled back from the abyss. Thorne is halfway down the aisle, a ruined man being paraded before the world, when Imani speaks one last time. Her voice is not loud, but it carries to every corner of the silent, watching room. "He called me uneducated," she says, her gaze fixed on the space where Thorne had stood in all his arrogant glory just moments before. He just forgot to ask where. The fallout is not a storm. It is a cleansing fire. The arrest of Marcus Thorne sends shockwaves through the city's legal and political foundations. It is the lead story on every news channel, the headline on every paper. The man who was the kingmaker, the untouchable titan, is now just another mugshot, his face pale and bloated under the harsh fluorescent lights of federal booking. His ruin is total, systematic, and absolute. The charges against him are a mountain. The evidence Imani compiled, combined with the FBI's broader investigation, is an avalanche. Racketeering, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, money laundering, suborning perjury, the list goes on and on. His network of shell corporations is unraveled, exposing decades of financial crimes. His prestigious law firm, Thorne and Associates, collapses within a week. Partners, terrified of being implicated, scramble for the exits, taking their clients with them. The firm's name is scraped off the frosted glass doors of its opulent downtown office. The fine art and expensive furniture are auctioned off to pay a fraction of the mounting legal fees and civil penalties. Thorne, denied bail as a flight risk, hires a series of high-priced lawyers, but it is no use. His old tricks, his bluster and intimidation, are useless against the cold, hard weight of federal evidence. His former allies and cronies, including Judge Albright, are all too eager to testify against him in exchange for leniency. Judge Albright is forced into a humiliating early retirement. The State Judicial Review Board, under intense federal pressure, begins proceedings to have him permanently disbarred. His portrait is removed from the courthouse gallery, his legacy erased. Frank Miller, Thorne's client, quickly accepts a plea deal. He confesses to the robbery and details Thorne's role in fabricating his alibi and paying off the false witness. He receives an additional sentence for perjury on top of his robbery conviction. The trial of Marcus Thorne is short and brutal. The prosecution, led by a top litigator from the Department of Justice, with Imani Williams serving as a key advisor, presents an airtight case. He is found guilty on all counts. The sentencing is a spectacle of karmic justice. Thorne, looking frail and diminished in an orange jumpsuit, stands before a federal judge. He tries to make a plea for mercy, his voice a pathetic rasp, but the judge is unmoved. He is sentenced to 25 years in a federal maximum security prison. No possibility of parole. His personal assets, from his penthouse apartment to his collection of classic cars, are seized by the government to pay restitution to the dozens of victims his corrupt practices created over the years. The fire that consumes the villains also illuminates the heroes. All charges against David Carter are immediately dropped with a formal, public apology from the district attorney's office. He is a free man. But Imani does more than just free him. She uses the notoriety of the case to establish a new legal defense fund, the Carter Initiative for Justice. Seeded with a massive settlement from the civil suit filed against Thorne's former firm, the initiative is dedicated to providing top-tier legal representation for the wrongly accused and disenfranchised. David, no longer a terrified boy, discovers a newfound purpose. He enrolls in community college, majoring in paralegal studies, and takes a position working for the initiative. He wants to help others who have been chewed up by the system that nearly destroyed him. Ben Jacobs, the overwhelmed public defender, is a changed man. Witnessing Imani's masterful takedown of Thorne ignites a fire in him. He refuses a promotion within the public defender's office. Instead, he accepts the position of lead counsel for the Carter Initiative, with Imani serving as his mentor and board chair. He becomes the lawyer he always wanted to be, a fierce, brilliant, and tireless advocate for the underdog. Imani Williams becomes a national figure. Her story is a symbol of quiet strength and righteous justice. The Attorney General promotes her, making her the youngest ever head of the Public Integrity Section. She is given a broad mandate and a massive budget to replicate her success, to hunt down and dismantle corrupt systems of power across the country. The systemic change is profound. The investigation into Thorne's activities uncovers a web of corruption that leads to the indictment of 2 city council members, a police captain, and more than a dozen other lawyers. Decades of tainted cases are reviewed. Over 20 wrongful convictions are overturned, and men and women who had lost hope walk free from prison. The city is forced to implement sweeping reforms in its police department and judiciary, creating new civilian oversight boards and transparency protocols. The cleansing is complete. The rot has been cut out, and in its place, something new and hopeful has begun to grow. 2 years later. The late spring sun streams through the magnificent stained glass windows of Sterling Law Building at Yale University. The air is warm, filled with the scent of old books and new beginnings. Imani Williams stands at a podium, looking out at the sea of bright, hopeful faces of the graduating class of Yale Law School. She is not wearing a simple floral dress today. She is wearing the formal academic robes of a commencement speaker, a position of the highest honor. Her presence commands the space, not with aggression or arrogance, but with a deep, resonant quiet confidence that draws everyone in. 2 years ago, she begins, her voice clear and strong, carrying to the furthest corners of the hall, I was standing in a courtroom, being cross-examined by a man who believed he was the most powerful person in the room. He was, by every conventional measure. He had the money, the connections, the title, the reputation. She pauses, letting the image settle in the minds of her audience. He looked at me and he saw what he wanted to see. He saw a woman. He saw a black woman. He saw someone he could dismiss, belittle, and discard. He looked at my simple clothes and my quiet demeanor, and he made an assumption. He called me uneducated. A murmur runs through the crowd. They know the story. Everyone knows the story. He made the gravest mistake a person in a position of power can make, Imani continues. He mistook humility for ignorance. He confused silence with weakness. His arrogance was a blindfold, preventing him from seeing the person standing right in front of him. He was so convinced of his own superiority that he never bothered to ask the most basic question, who are you? In the front row, a young man watches her, his face alight with pride and admiration. He is dressed not in a borrowed suit that swallows him, but in a sharp, well-fitting suit of his own. He looks confident, focused, and full of purpose. It is David Carter, now a top student in Yale's pre-law undergraduate program, attending the ceremony as Imani's personal guest. Power, Imani says, her gaze sweeping across the future lawyers, judges, and leaders before her, is not about the volume of your voice, the expense of your suit, or the fear you can instill. True power is found in the truth. It is found in preparation. It is found in the unwavering conviction that justice is not a privilege for the powerful, but a right for all. She looks directly at David, a small, proud smile touching her lips. That lawyer's world was built on a foundation of lies and prejudice. My job, our job, is to be the truth that brings those foundations crashing down. Never, ever, let anyone's perception of you define your reality. Never let their prejudice become your prison. Your diploma from this esteemed institution is a key. But your integrity, your empathy, your commitment to the truth, that is your power. Use it wisely. Use it relentlessly. And never, ever let anyone make you feel like you do not belong in the room. The world of Marcus Thorne ended in a courtroom. His legacy is one of disgrace, a cautionary tale whispered in the halls of law firms. He will spend the rest of his days in a concrete cell, a forgotten relic of a corrupt era, haunted by the memory of a woman in a floral dress who he fatally underestimated. His arrogance was not just a character flaw, it was a self-inflicted, mortal wound. For Imani Williams, David Carter, and Ben Jacobs, their work is just beginning. They built something new from the ashes of Thorne's destruction, a system dedicated to ensuring that justice is not just a word carved on a courthouse, but a living, breathing reality for those who need it most. They proved that the most profound and satisfying victory is not just in tearing down the corrupt, but in building up the just. The moral is not complex, but it is eternal. Prejudice is a prison you build for yourself, and underestimating others is the surest way to lock the door and throw away the key. Justice, true justice, always has the last word.